a Lonmin shareholder when 44 people died during strike-related violence at Lonmin's platinum mining operations at Marikana back in August 2012. Now, he is expected to face some questions regarding his communication with the former Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa. All right, we have Vuyo on the line. He's live there at the Commission. Vuyo Mvoko, of course, our contributing editor. Vuyo, much ado about those emails, isn't it? You spoke to us earlier about how important and significant they are to the Commission of Inquiry. But what I wanted to know from you, you've had a chance to sit down with the Deputy President. Was he anxious at all about his testimony today?
Well, not at all, actually. Remember, he's a man of a few words. He has got that, what some people call an infectious smile, that perhaps hides a lot of things. If he was anxious, it certainly didn't show. And I remember even a couple of months ago when I spoke to him again, post the President's State of the Nation address, where he was expanding on the State President's State of the Nation address. Again, I asked him about the contradictions that continue to swell because, I mean, the ANC on the one hand has to spend, the ANC government has to spend a lot of money on arms, and then on the other hand, their children who are still studying under trees. And how do they manage those contradictions? How do they manage the fact that people look at the ANC government, they look at, for example, the number of meetings that the government has had with business as opposed to the number of meetings that it has had with organized labor, for example. And in all of that, the point he kept on making was that people have confidence in the African National Congress government because of what the ANC has done, not today, not yesterday, not last year, not 5 years ago, but over a long period of time, over 102 years to be exact. In other words, what that told me about him and how he thinks is that no one person or not one person's deeds will in fact undo what the ANC has been about over 102 years, because he believes that it is the party that has stood for all good things of this world, and no acts of one individual will actually undo that.
Vuyo, speaking to former Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa, Advocate Dalimpofu, read a lot from the email that was so controversial, seeming to suggest that those emails could have even been a catalyst, as Mr. Ramaphosa was said to have applied pressure. Speak to us about that now. Mr. Ramaphosa says those emails were taken out of context, that he was misquoted and misunderstood. Remind us of the content of those emails.
Well, that is certainly going to be the game plan of all the people representing both the survivors but also the victims of that massacre. In other words, they are going to try and punch holes. They are going to try and draw or at least lead people to sort of draw a narrative that's going to say, from what Cyril Ramaphosa said to Minister Mthethwa, from what he said to Minister Shabangu, then on, or at that point, the government wasn't really doing much. And then it was only after Mr. Ramaphosa, who you will recall was already a member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC at that time. And the fact that he, for example, mentioned Gwede Mantashe going to engage with him. In other words, what they're going to try and do is to get people to get a sense or to feel that it was only after Cyril Ramaphosa made those calls, wrote those emails, had those conversations with very important people within the ruling party and within government that action was then, because it was almost like 24 hours after Mr. Ramaphosa made those remarks that what then happened actually happened. So they're going to try by all means to actually make the allegations that have already been made by people who think that the ANC is beholden to big business, to power. In fact, they are going to try and paint a picture of the ANC, of an ANC agency that was at the time beholden to the interests of big business at the expense, in this instance, of workers. Now, whether they succeed, of course, remains to be seen. In other words, whether Mr. Ramaphosa will crack, whether Mr. Ramaphosa will be able to go beyond his narrative. Remember, his narrative up until now has been that all he was asking the police to do was the right thing, which was to arrest a criminal element that was exploiting a strike. Now, whether the advocates representing the workers can then be able to draw out of him or draw him out of that narrative to actually make the allegations that they are making that he in fact got government to act in his interest. Now, whether they can make those allegations stick and get that narrative to be the dominant narrative, then they will be onto something.
Well, let's leave it there for now. Contributing editor Vuyo Mvoko live to us from the Commission of Inquiry there, the Farlam Commission of Inquiry. And of course, it remains to see what the domino effect will be on Mr. Ramaphosa's political career, if at all.